Hi, this is Tim Troutman and Chad Evans. We're going to be presenting you the June the 4th, 1814 Ohio Valley tornado outbreak presentation today. So, Chad Evans is the chief meteorologist at WLFI TV out of Lafayette, Indiana, and I'm Tim Troutman. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist with the National Weather Service office out of Riverton, Wyoming. So let's jump right into the presentation. The June the 4th, 1814 Ohio Valley tornado outbreak was an event that Chad and I became aware of, and we were researching both different states. Chad was looking at Indiana involving the tornado outbreak, involving historical tornado research, and I was looking at Kentucky, and we found out that each other were doing this research, so we decided to join together for this presentation today. We found quite a bit of our information via microfilm, also via websites such as genealogybank.com, newspapers.com, and chroniclingamerica.com. Also via county history books and diaries and journals. So the objective of the research is to provide a better documentation of these 1800s, especially Ohio Valley tornado outbreaks, to show some correlation between this event and other events. Well, the June the 4th, 1814 Ohio Valley tornado outbreak resulted in 20 tornadoes at least occurring during the afternoon and evening hours of that day. There were at least 17 deaths reported and 4 large hail reports noted. One report of 3 tornadoes within 1 hour within vicinity of each other was by noted physician and weather enthusiast Daniel Drake in the southern part of Cincinnati, where there were a tornado that occurred one after the other about 20 minutes apart that were moving northeast into the vicinity of where he lived out of Boone and Kenton counties in northeast Kentucky, producing quite a bit of damage into the southern part of Cincinnati. There were reported several hailstones that weighed 8 to 10 ounces each and measured between 15 to 16 inches in circumference. Wow. John James Audubon was also affected by the June 4th, 1814 outbreak. He was a businessman first, although he was also an ornithologist, naturalist, and painter later. He was traveling at the time to visit one of his partners, Thomas Bakewell, who had a general store that they both shared in Henderson, Kentucky, and Shawneetown, Illinois. On his way back from Shawneetown, Illinois, he was traveling through Union County, Kentucky, near Morganville, Kentucky, and he encountered a tornado that was moving toward and through where he was located. So he had a close call with this tornado. He noticed, he said, a yellowish oval spot toward the southwest appearing and moving toward him when the whole force before me was in a fearful motion. The horrible noise resembled that of the great cataracts of, I assume, the Niagara Falls, and it howled along its track of the desolating tempest. The flowery words, he also went on to say that the tornado on passing disclosed a wide space filled with fallen trees, naked stumps, and heaps of shapeless ruins, which marked the path of the tempest. The space of the tornado damage was about 1/4 of a mile in breadth. So Audubon wrote about his experience with this. It was titled The Hurricane in his book, Birds of the United States of America. So here is a look at a yellowish oval, which would be shape, of the cloud in vicinity of a tornado. That was provided also by Chad Evans. This is an example of his manuscript titled The Hurricane, which is right now at the archives in Louisiana State University. That tornado was near Morganfield in Union County, Kentucky. So a separate tornado that was a larger tornado in likelihood occurred about 3.5 miles to the northwest of Shawneetown, Illinois, a little bit further back to the west of this tornado in in the eastern part of Gallatin County, Illinois there, along the Ohio River. Well, this tornado moved northeast and further moved across the Ohio River, moved up through the Wabash Island, and then slowly dissipated as it crossed again the Ohio River to the northeast of Wabash Island. This tornado had about at least a 9.8 mile track, 1/2 mile to a mile wide in its damage width, according to eyewitness reports. Due to the extent of the damage, where it completely destroyed a large, well-built home on Wabash Island, killing 3 persons and severely injuring 3. Numerous fish deposited hundreds of yards from the Ohio River shore, and hail was found the size of a man's 2 fists, and it was unable to fit into a pint cup. These well-developed descriptions lead us to feel that this tornado was at least a strong tornado, and maybe even on the low end of a violent tornado, between the F3 to F4 category on the old Fujita scale. Here's an example of what S. Griswold, who wrote the article about the tornado, this is what he said. It looked like a sugar loaf, and this is an example of a sugar loaf tornado. Another tornado that occurred to the southwest of the previous 2 tornadoes occurred near Smithland, Kentucky, on the mouth of the Cumberland River. This example of this tornado, by the article by the Bardstown Repository newspaper, stated that the water was filled with driftwood. A good deal is green, involving the driftwood bearing marks of great violence. Some wrecks of boats have been seen to float by. Other tornado was in Carroll County, Kentucky. That track also was along the Ohio River, well to the northeast of the other 3 tracks that I talked about. This tornado was between Louisville, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, Ohio, kind of on a southwest track toward the northeast, towards Cincinnati. And this example mentioned from the Bardstown Repository newspaper that there were dreadful accounts of damage. Several lives were stated to have been lost. So Chad Evans will finish out the presentation, where he will talk about the extent of the damage in the Indiana portion of the outbreak.
Hello there, thanks for joining us today. I'm WLFI Precision 18 Chief Meteorologist Chad Evans, and I've been plotting these severe weather outbreaks over the past 200 years, 200 years of outbreaks, that is, since I was in college. And when you start plotting these reports on paper, like an SPC local storm report, these outbreaks come to life. And you start seeing how they evolved, what the main storm mode was, and you also begin to see how these really old events from 200, 150, even 80, 50 years ago, whatever, when you see these, you see resemblance to modern day events. So it's very interesting. It's like they've just been covered up in a library somewhere for years, and then you start plotting them, and it's like, wow, you really see the magnitude of some of these events despite a lack of population. So an example, this is the March 19th, 20th, 1948 outbreak from Oklahoma all the way to Pennsylvania. This would have been kind of a high-risk day for parts of the Corn Belt and Midwest. You see all the reports plotted there. All these reports come from newspapers, U.S. Weather Bureau records. They come from diaries, and they come from county histories. And some of it's gleaned online, but a lot of it's gleaned just going to museums and libraries that are local. And again, I've plotted a lot of nationwide events, but I've always had an emphasis on Midwest, Corn Belt, and Indiana severe weather. In 1929, we had a double derecho, June 27th through June 30th. The main derecho was the one that hit central Indiana. It was really the worst on record for central Indiana. We had a measured wind gust of 111 miles an hour at Indianapolis, and there was strong evidence south of Lafayette of winds that exceeded 100 miles an hour. So that outbreak came to life. This is the first storm complex that was referred to as a derecho. And this was not July 31st, but likely August 31st of 1877, again, southeast South Dakota, all the way to the Delmarva. And the severe weather reports are kind of concentrated in Iowa, north central Illinois, northern Indiana, northern Ohio, southeast Michigan. The April 11th through 14th, 1886 severe weather sequence, lots of strong to violent tornadoes in the heart of the nation. You can see sort of the evolution here with all the 1-inch hail reports and even some wind damage reports in California. Very vigorous upper trough, digging in, ejecting into the plains likely, and you can see all of the violent weather reported. And we had another tornado sequence, May 11th through 13th, 1886, Kansas City, all the way through Indiana. For my particular area that I work in here in central and north central Indiana, it was our most prolific tornado outbreak on record. And then you can see it goes all the way to Pennsylvania. You even had a long track tornado in southeast Virginia. This is the early June 1814 outbreak right here. We'll take it in tighter. I'm focused on Indiana in this particular outbreak. And you can see the tornado tracks and the large hail reports. Now, I want you to look at that map and then look at June 2nd through 3rd of 1990. I'm going to go back. There's 1814. Here's 1990. It's very similar to the 90 outbreak. Even the long track tornado that you see there in southwest Indiana that kind of shows up and tracked perhaps all the way through southern Indiana, it's very similar to the violent F4 that we had in 1990. And there have been several violent tornadoes right in this zone. So you see how this event is similar to other big outbreaks in the lower Ohio Valley. I was looking back, I've plotted April of 1852, the New Harmony tornado that killed 16 people. It's very similar to that outbreak. It's similar to the February 1876 outbreak. It's similar to the March 1890 outbreak. November 1955, the November 2005, the two outbreaks in November of 2005, and then as recently as February 28th of 2017, it's very similar. And as a matter of fact, we had a long track tornado move right through northern Posey County into Gibson County in 2017, and then it touched back down in DuBois County. And again, the 1814 tornado, similar, and again, 1990, similar as well. We're going to go through each likely supercell here in the 1814 event. Top of the screen, you'll notice Carlisle, Indiana. You work your way downward, Vincennes, Evansville, Louisville's on the right side of your screen. Bloomington is just off the screen at the top to kind of get your bearing straight here on this part of Indiana. The top part of the screen, I gleaned this information from two county histories, Crawford County, Illinois, and Solomon County, Indiana. This tornado crossed the Wabash from Lamont Prairie, Illinois, to Gills Prairie in Indiana. And it reportedly tore up large trees by the roots, twisted them at the base. We also had an interesting account of very large hail, that there were a group of pioneers that were so frightened by the storm and by the hail, they took shelter in a Conestoga wagon they had. And the very large hail completely shredded it and tore it apart. But once you get east of Gills Prairie, I can't find any other reference to this particular tornado. However, I want you to notice way up there in the far right part of your screen, the upper part on the right, that red dot, that's Brown County, Indiana. There's actually a creek named Hurricane Creek after an 1814 tornado there from the tree damage in that area. It could have been the same supercell, or it's this next supercell just south of that, the Maria Creek one, that produced very large hail. The hail the size of two men's fists, so that's softball size, grapefruit sized, and heavy damage in that area, right along Maria Creek, north of Vincennes. And there is actually a hurricane branch that flows into Maria Creek that's named after an 1814 tornado, and this is likely the one. Go a little farther southward. This was a really significant tornado, it appears. Tracking from, kind of following the Patoka River, as it was said. And the hail, once again, near Patoka, Indiana, was the size of two men's fists. Huge hail associated with this. And it injured several people west of Princeton, west-northwest of Princeton, and kept tracking onward, tracked across Gibson County. There is an area south of Petersburg, Indiana, it's now called Barren Ditch, but old maps call it Barren Creek or Barren Branch. And it is referred to an area that was stripped of timber from an early hurricane, as they call them, or tornado in this area around 1814. So it may be the same one. And then this tornado went across all of Du Bois County. It was up to a mile wide. This area ended up being called the Barren because it stripped the area of timber so much that it opened up the dense forests in this area, but up to a mile wide, reportedly. Then we have Hurricane Creek in Orange County, Indiana, named after this tornado. And then another tornado track southeast of Salem, Indiana, that was reportedly just an impenetrable mass of downed trees that grew up in pea vines that were just impossible to get through. Then we have the tornado between Carmi and New Haven, Illinois, that tracked across northern Posey County with damage. Interestingly, there's no reference from New Harmony of this tornado from those records, but there is reference in the county histories. And there's another Hurricane Creek and Little Hurricane Creek east of Hobstadt, Indiana, that red dot named after this particular tornado. Farther south, Wabash Island was reportedly devastated, where the Wabash and Ohio meet. We had 3 people killed in southern Posey County from this tornado as it tracked northeastward. So certainly a significant event here, and research will be ongoing between Tim and myself.